Hi Twitch, and welcome back here. Now I have actually a very interesting team with me. It's S3 and Glacier, right? So it's the foundation of AWS, I'd say. You know, people talk about the 10 years of AWS. S3 was one of the first, if not the first service announced.
Yeah.
Can you guys introduce yourself and tell us what you're doing?
Sure thing.
My name is Rahul, and I work with the S3 team. I'm the product manager working with Amazon S3 Select, which some of you might have heard the announcement in the keynote yesterday. So looking forward to talking to you guys.
Hi, I'm Rasham Gupta. I'm a product manager in Glacier, and I was the PM for Glacier Select.
And my name is Craig Cotton. I am the Director of Product Management for S3.
That's a big deal. We're talking S3 and Glacier. For me, you know, I've been a customer for AWS before joining AWS for 10 years, and S3 and Glacier has been in my life forever, so it's great to have you on stage. Before we deep dive into what Select is, can we talk a little bit what is S3 and Glacier really fast, and then what were the customer's problem and why we went to build Select?
Yeah. So I'll take the S3. So as you mentioned, S3 is about 11 and a half years old. I think it was the second, not the first AWS service, but it's been around for a while. And it's storage for the internet. It always has been. It's one of the largest storage networks in the world. It's our object storage, and it's very easy to use. It's in the name, Simple Storage Service. Yeah. This is what S3 stands for.
But there's nothing simple on the hood, huh?
No, we make it very simple for
Exactly. How about Glacier?
Sure, so Glacier is about 5 years or so. Glacier is cloud archival storage. It's very low-cost storage, starting at 0.4 cents per GB per month. Cool. And we made it very simple to integrate with S3. So if for customers who use S3 a lot and want to migrate their data, can migrate that data over to Glacier, or they can bring their data directly to Glacier.
And S3 and Glacier have been so popular that people have put a lot of data there, right? Therefore, there was a problem in retrieving some information at some point, and we built S3 Select. Can you tell us a bit about the product, what it is?
Yeah, so the problem we're trying to solve and what we're so excited about is before S3 Select and Glacier Select, if I wanted to get insights into my data, I had to pull out an object or I had to pull out an archive out of Glacier.
And it can be terabyte.
Objects could be quite large.
Yeah.
And then I might pull it into EC2 using Elastic MapReduce or some of our other query tools to get just a portion, to filter out a portion of the data. So with S3 Select and with Glacier Select, now I could tell, instead of using get, I could use select, and I could say, I just want this portion of the object without having to pull the whole object out. So I get my data out faster, my query results, the time to results I'm going to get faster, and I'm going to do it at a lower cost. So it's pretty exciting from an analytics standpoint.
And what kind of filters are we using? I saw an SQL filter on that. Can you talk about that?
Yeah.
What do you guys want to talk about?
That was one of the design decisions. I mean, we were talking about when we were building S3 Select and Glacier Select that what's the medium should we use for people to express the filter? And as we look through it, right, as many of us, right, I mean, I'm pretty sure some of us are watching the SQL community out there with the data analytics and all that. And SQL is sort of the lingua franca of the community. They all understand, we all understand that language, right? I mean, I'm sure you have written some SQL, I have written in my heydays, I mean. So that was one of the design decisions we looked into it, and SQL sort of seemed aligned very well to that kind of use case. So we do use SQL as the DSL for people to express the criteria. So now you can easily express saying that I do want a projection, a predicate, or something similar to that. So you can say that, for example, like imagine you're storing this Twitch video, the entire stream as object in S3. So now I can say that select the video for S3 Select and Glacier Select from that object in S3. So something of similar like that. Yeah.
That's really cool. What kind of files are we supporting? I mean, we can't support everything, I suppose. There's a use case that we have in mind. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, I mean, people do support, customers do store everything in every format possible is there in S3 or in Glacier. But to start with, what we are seeing is that we are going to support delimited files with both Glacier Select and S3 Select. But with S3 Select, we also do support JSON files. And I'm sure Glacier Select is going to support JSON.
We're going to add more and more formats over time.
And the reason we chose these formats is just because if you look at the data generated today, most of the data gets generated in these formats. Either delimited format, Apache Web Logs, or look at the AWS logs, like CloudTrail logs. They are in JSON format. And that's where we see the prime use cases are today, and hence the reason we chose these formats, so customers can easily get started using it.
we have quite a few services to do queries on S3. We have Athena, we have Spectrum. Where does Select stand? When customers should use Select and when should they use others?
So if you think about it, the distinction, what we say is that Select is a way to efficiently retrieve your data out of storage.
Right.
Versus Athena and Spectrum are a way to analyze your data in S3 or Glacier. So there's a difference lies there, which is that whether you want to retrieve data out of S3 or you want to analyze data in S3. But one thing which remains that even for analysis, you need to retrieve data out of S3 anyways. So this is where we say that Athena, Spectrum, and everything could use S3 Select to provide customers with a better query experience, faster experience.
Although what you're saying is actually those tools will use eventually or might use S3 Select to speed up the queries.
I think it will be
Because
will
we're
use.
closer to the nodes, right?
Yeah.
That's what you're saying. Yeah,
They
makes
will.
sense.
So most customers, if I'm using Redshift Spectrum today, or if I'm using Athena, they should continue to use them.
Right.
And their queries will be more efficient and faster using those tools.
So folks, just don't change everything right now.
No,
It's going to be supported
I
on
think
the
another key thing to
Yes.
note is, like he mentioned, although we're using SQL, we don't support all the SQL expressions. Like we don't support group bys, we don't support joins, and we most likely will not. And to really do any kind of analysis, you will need to use that.
Makes
so you
sense.
can use those in Athena, and S3 Select and Glacier Select
But
are better left.
I think one of the cool thing you can talk about, or one of the good pointers, will be like Athena will support Glacier Select, and that sort of changes the paradigm today. Like you could run SQL queries directly from Athena, which can query your data sitting in Glacier without you ever having to do anything. That's, if you think about it, that's a fundamentally
If today you
it
have
changes the way you retrieve data
Right,
from Glacier.
that's right,
So
yeah.
can you talk about how do we retrieve data in Glacier today and what is happening now with Glacier Select?
So before Glacier Select, if you had to use something like Athena with Glacier, you would first have to restore that data from Glacier to S3 and then write an Athena query against that S3 retrieved data. Once Athena will be integrated with Glacier Select, you will be able to write the actual Glacier object in the SQL query in Athena, and it'll work seamlessly.
Hold on, so now I can query Glacier and get the data right away?
from Athena.
Once it's announced.
Once it integrates, of course,
Once
yes.
it's announced and it's integrated. I'm saying as of today, you can write a SQL query and just send it to Glacier and you'll get your results back.
Immediately, or is it still
It depends.
with
So
the paradigm
it's not
of-
synchronous.
Okay.
Glacier, if you want synchronous, you should use S3.
Right.
Glacier is asynchronous. However, we do have three tiers. Expedited, standard, and bulk with different data access times.
Okay.
Expedited is under 5 minutes. So it's semi-synchronous, like if you can accept 5 minutes delay, you can get your results.
So we keep the same retrieval paradigm, we just add the SQL filter
Correct.
on top of it.
That's correct.
That's really cool. So, I mean, those are pretty amazing services, right? There probably has been a lot of challenges building those. Can you talk about it a little bit? What were the challenges? I mean, it's a massive scale, right?
I think one of the biggest challenge was identifying what to build, right? If you think about
That's
it,
right.
like when customers, like they come to us, like as Andy mentioned in the keynote yesterday, like customers are storing a lot of data in their S3-based data lake. But as the data lake's footprint is growing, so is their compute.
Right.
So the customers were like, why is that happening? I'm trying to analyze the same set of data, but what is that? So we had to kind of go back to the drawing board, figure out what exactly how the systems work, and then figure out a common pattern, which was pretty challenging in general. But thanks to the great feedback we got from customers, we were able to figure that out. And then the second thing is like, how do we let customers express that? Like, is it data lake the only thing? But S3 is used for many other use cases too. So when we were looking into that, identifying the expression, identifying the language by which customers can express the filter, that was another challenging pattern. And just in that, I think, looking back in retrospect, based on the feedback we got as of yesterday, I think SQL was the right choice for us. But
seems
let's
like
see.
it.
Only time can tell what customers will build on top of it using it, right?
Right,
So,
that's
yeah.
Customers go from petabytes to hundreds of petabytes to exabytes.
Yeah.
It's getting to a point where it's not feasible to be moving the data all around. So we're going to have to bring more and more services to the storage.
That's right.
That's in place without having to move it around. So this is one of the first examples of that. It's pretty exciting.
I'd
Looking
like-
forward to the Select on Snowmobile.
Yeah. I'd like to add one more thing. I don't necessarily see it as a challenge, but more as a design principle that I think S3 Select and
Yeah.
Glacier Select worked,
Yeah.
was that a lot of customers use lifecycle to move their data from S3 to Glacier. So the way we've designed our API, even though S3 is synchronous, Glacier is asynchronous. but the fields and parameters inside the API are very similar. So you can
Thank
literally
you.
copy-paste from
Yeah.
one to the other and
Thank you.
still
That's
be able
good.
to use
That's
it.
great.
We always
yes.
fight for that.
Yeah.
Can we see a demo? I would love to see
Yeah,
a
sure.
demo.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's do it.
Let me see if you can. Yeah. So in this, what you can see on the screen is a very simple Python script. And what you see in the first part of the Python script, which is without ST-select, there's a small file sitting in the CSV file sitting in my bucket, which is named airport code. So it has airport code, for example, LAS, and it will say airport name as Las Vegas, which is McCarran International, and then latitude and longitude. So in the first step, as you can see, what I'm doing is the traditional way. I'm retrieving the entire data, entire file out of S3, processing it, filtering it, and then getting the results. But if you look at the second part, which is this one, in the second part, all I'm doing is running a ST-select request. So now I don't have to retrieve the object, now I don't have to do all the processing. All I'm saying is that from the object, give me these fields. And in which case I'm saying, give me the airport name, where the object is equal to LAS. Yeah. So if you look at it, for instance, it's the same code I'm running here. And if I run this code, you can see that both the queries, with and without ST-select, they say the airport name is McCarran International. But look at the performance.
It's a huge improvement.
It's a huge improvement. It's almost a 10x improvement.
Yeah.
But the great part is that you can use the same exact semantics with Glacier Select also. And Rashim, you can talk about like how it will work with Glacier Select. And
Yeah,
that's
I'd love to
Yeah,
hear
so
that.
pretty much it's very similar. You will still provide the SQL query, but in addition to the parameters for S3 Select, you can add the output S3 location, because we do not send results synchronously to the user, but we write it to an S3 bucket. So you'll provide an S3 bucket location, and you'll provide an SNS topic, where you will be notified once the job is complete.
That's because it's asynchronous. We want
That's
to
right.
know when it
and we
it
don't
is
want
done.
customers to poll, but
Right,
to
that's
notify them when the job
Let's
is
go.
complete.
Can we talk about the limits? Is there any limits in the size
no.
of the objects or this?
We are in preview today, so there's no limits. You could just try the service and let us know how the service works. And
Awesome.
that's the great part. I mean, S3, there's no limits in S3. Everything scales automatically based on your workload. So even for Glacier.
So on the Glacier side, the only limits we have are for tiers.
Okay.
So again, bulk and standard, there are no limits. But expedited, we do limit you to a couple of parallel expedited queries.
All right.
If you need more than that, you can purchase provision capacity. You can read more about that on our documentation.
Oh, cool.
But,
I mean, anything else you would like to add about the service? I mean, it's a big. For me, as soon as I see S3 Select and people don't make a big deal about it, or Glacier Select, for me it's one of the big features what was announced, but it's just like, hey, just like that. By the way, you get S3 and Glacier Select, come on. Like,
It really changes the way that customers can deal with and interact with their data out of S3, really just grabbing the data that they need more quickly, more cost effectively. Yeah. And then on the Glacier side, I think it really redefines what cold storage means.
Yeah, exactly.
Because in the old days, cold storage, I would be maybe on tape, and it might take me a couple of days to retrieve it, and now I could go to, in the near future, to Athena, and I could say I want some data out of this, what used to be cold archive, and have it within minutes. So it's really transformational, I think.
So there are a lot of developers online. If you were developers and you had a feature like this, what would you build today?
Yeah, I think I would just use Lambda to build some sort of very cool data processing or data event-based triggers. I think that's, we sort of tested this with Lambda. And actually, if you're looking at the request we got as of yesterday for preview, by the way, ST-Select is in preview and you can apply right now for the preview.
All right, guys, did you hear
just
that?
Remember that, and we are looking forward for the request. And a lot of the use cases are fairly cool. They're really amazing use cases what customers are trying to say what they do with Lambda. So if I was there, I would probably build something like that. Maybe a telephone directory based on Lambda. That would be pretty cool. So yeah.
I'm sure someone is going to steal your idea right now.
For Glacier Select, I would expect more and more services, data services and data engines to integrate with Glacier now, because you do not have to restore the entire object. So, so I see a lot of opportunities there.
That's interesting. Also with other AWS services, right?
AWS services and other ISVs and third-party services.
Partner services.
Yeah.
That's awesome. How about you? What would you build?
I would see how quickly I can accelerate existing queries, right? Especially ones that you need faster. Sometimes people will set off these analytics queries and they'll run them overnight and things like that. So if it happens in 2 hours versus 8, it's not a big deal. But other financial services companies, for example, looking for fraud detection.
Yeah, that sounds like
if I can shave 3 seconds off of a query, that might make all the difference in the world. So for those critical queries, I would see how fast can they run now that we're moving the compute closer to the storage to make this faster. So as Rashim said, Glacier Select is available today. It's generally available, so you could go purchase it, which is great. So you could start using it and build it into your workflows. S3 Select, what's nice is it's in preview, so there's no charge to use it. So you could go to the, Raul said, to the S3 page, and you'll look under Query in Place, and you'll see the S3 Select
link.
preview. Click on that link. It'll take you maybe 2 minutes to fill out the request for the preview. We'll get back to it very quickly and get you whitelisted to use the service, and then provide us feedback on where do you want us for both of these services to go next, because we're going to take our cues from our customers like we always do.
Yeah. Last question that I have is about pricing. Is there a particular pricing on Select?
Select is during preview, as Craig mentioned, it's free to use. So use it as much as you want, and there's no charge to use it during the preview.
So what's coming after that?
So S3 Select, there's no charge.
Yes, S3 Select is during the preview.
Right.
And after the preview, it's what our one of the intention for us is to learn from your use cases.
Right.
On how do you use this service during the preview, and based on that, we want to price it such a way that you always end up saving net savings in how we use S3 Select. So that's what we learned. We want to use it during the preview, let us know how you use it, and we are more than happy to.
I love that we always do this kind of stuff, that we learn from customers and then put the best pricing.
For Glacier Select, our pricing is based on data scanned and data returned. What that means is when you run a query on an object, we charge you for 100% of the cost of the size of the object, and then depending on how much data is filtered out, you're charged for that. But one of the way it's priced is, it's in most cases, if you filter out most of the data, you'll always come out ahead and save in price if you use Select rather than restore. And that's not even including the compute cost. If you add the compute cost, you'll see substantial savings using Select.
Well, on that note, thank you so much for coming here, and congratulations on that launch.
Thank you.
It's big.
It's like, before we go, I would like to mention like one of the tweets we saw yesterday, and the tweet said, for example, like, rethink storage, rethink how you retrieve data from storage. And that's what we want to build, and so excited to be here. Thank you.
And we'll be back soon for another great interview.